Now, around 300 years ago, in that range, a group started by Moses Mendelssohn. His name should be obliterated. He was a scholar, but he was an evil scholar. He decided that he will reform Judaism. So he came along and said that Moshe Rabbeinu made the Torah, and we can pick and choose what we like from the Torah. So he made reform Judaism, and today, of course, where they're holding that, of course, they don't observe the Sabbath, they don't observe kosher, anything that is not convenient, they do not accept of the Torah. Yet, in the world, they became a distinguished, accepted, legitimate representation of Judaism. So a branch you would call something of Judaism. So that was the first major movement against religious Judaism, because till then we have Judaism is Judaism. It's a religion given by Moses. We may have different customs from Sephardic lands, from Spain, Portugal, have different customs that different than from Eastern European Jews. I mean, from every Yemen has different customs, but we basically share the same exacting belief. We have no problem of intermarrying and so forth because we want one religion. That said, Reform changed. They came along with a new concept, and this is unacceptable. And it's not Judaism. It's like calling Buddhist Judaism. Does that make sense to you? That is what reform means. And therefore, in our communities, in the religious community, we never accept reform as a representation of Judaism. Later, some people saw that reform went way overboard, and they went too far extreme. So a new movement started called conservative Judaism, which is also one of the biggest, big branches, and was probably maybe more than orthodoxy. But they decided that reform went over the deep end, so they became more conservative than reform. But anything that tries to change even one letter of the Torah that's not orthodoxy, that is not Judaism. We don't look at it as a form of Judaism. That's the major branches. I could go a little further. There's others today that they have some variances, but these were the major branches. The majority of Jews, unfortunately, do not observe the Torah. They are not Orthodox. And then Zionism came along, which we have to explain.
Let me ask you something, Rabbi. Many Jewish religious groups have supported the creation of the state of Israel and are allied with Zionism. Why do the Neturei Karta oppose this position?
Yes, again, the Neturei Karta are made for protecting the city. It's not a different part of Judaism. It's the basics. It's just people who are vocal from the religious community that are trying to clarify to the world what Judaism is, and that we do not accept Zionism. It's protectors of the city, because Zionism came as a movement of Eastern Europe, came from Austria, a group of people who were basically heretics, and they wanted to transform Judaism from this subservience to God of 3,000 years. It's a mere 130, 50 years old, the movement. They're going to transform it into nationalism, a base concept of having a piece of land with an army, with an Olympic team, and all the trappings of a country, but it's void of godliness. And they proudly announce they're a democracy. That's what Zionism says. They're a democracy. You don't have to keep the Sabbath. You can do what you want. So it's totally antithetical. It's contradictory what Judaism is. And also, the Torah warned us 3,000 years ago. We were given the Torah, told up to go to the Holy Land to serve God in holiness. But 2,000 years ago, we were sent into exile because we weren't on the proper level of holiness. We were dispersed amongst the nations and expressly warned by God through the prophets, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, King Solomon, who wrote very clearly that once we are in exile, we are forbidden to attempt to return en masse in large numbers, or to rebel against any nation. We have to be loyal citizens in every country we reside. And thirdly, we're not to make any attempt of leaving exile. So Zionism, when this group of people came, these heretics, and wanted to make an ersatz Judaism, a new Judaism. So first of all, it's not Judaism. Just like reform isn't, it's just not Judaism. But it's contradictory, and it's a rebellion against God. Even if it would have been religious, It would be unacceptable because God warned us. God said, because of our sins, we were sent into exile, not because we were physically weak. So to go ahead and establish a Jewish sovereignty, regardless if it would be really orthodox or not, would be contradictory to what Judaism is. It's like somebody's going to say, I'm a religious Jew, but the do not kill is not part of my religion. That I'm leaving out of it. Returning and creating a state is a heresy. It's a rebellion against God, who warned us. God says, I put you into exile because of you're not being on the right level, and the end of exile will only come about, which we yearn and hope for, when God will make a metaphysical change in the world. All humanity will stop being atheists. They will recognize there's one God, serve him in harmony. Then the Almighty will return us, and he himself will build a temple without any intervention, human intervention. So to try to return and create a sovereignty is a direct rebellion against God, and all the rabbinical authorities around the world, from the Sephardic lands to Palestine, to the Jewish, we have in Argentina a beautiful group there, but wherever there was a very religious community, and Europe, it was prior to the living in the United States. Today you have these communities in the United States. Every one of these religious leaders vehemently opposed and declared that Zionism is unacceptable. It is to be ostracized. This is the fact of Judaism. Before the Second World War, there was no such thing as Zionism to be accepted. They were purely ostracized from the Jewish communities. Unfortunately, because of the upheavals and the suffering of Jews, they were given by Britain the rights over the land. They became powerful. They became, and the Jewish people, the leaders, were slaughtered in the Holocaust. 6 million or more Jews were murdered, and all our leaders were the first to be murdered. Jews were sheep without a pastor, somebody to lead them. So without a shepherd, and we didn't have to. So therefore, the Zionists were able to come in and tell the world, to try to convince the world that they are that it's part of Judaism. They use the Star of David, the name Israel, and that God gave us the land 3,000 years ago. He promised us the land, and we are just fulfilling the dream of God of returning to the land. The end of, they call themselves as Chalta de Gula, the beginning of redemption, because they conveniently ignore that we were sent into exile. They count on the ignorance of the masses, certainly the Christian evangelistic Christians and so forth, who just know the children of Israel, the land of Israel, that they should return, and they count on the majority of Jews that are reformed, that the Reformed Judaism, they don't even know their religion. And many of the people are ignorant. Many people are, like I say, sheep who went through the Holocaust, children. Only the youth mostly remained alive. So they told them, oh, we suffered so much. Now God is giving back the land. They counted on the lack of knowledge of people. And they made a rabbinate, a chief rabbi, or masquerading in our religion. But till today, the rabbinical authorities around the world, invariably, you will go to London, Stamford Hills in London, that you were showing pictures of before, I believe, and or you go to Mea Shearim in Jerusalem. You are telling us, New York. Let me just finish this. In New York, the second largest Jewish community you have, the concentration of religious Jews of Williamsburg, Brooklyn. There's not one single Israeli flag, because we know that because the more the religious, the more clear that it is impossible to combine the two. Zionism is nationalism, a rebellion against God, forbidden according to the Torah. Judaism is subservience to God.
Many critics to Zionism say this ideology is racist and colonialist. Do you agree with these opinions?
You know, we believe that certainly it is criminal. It is oppressing other people. If the exact terminology, political terminology, I can't tell you. It is stealing the land from the Muslim and Arab people. It is from the Palestinians. It is oppressing. It is totally illegal according to the Torah, but not to kill or to steal. Because I hate with the Zionists to go into, because they're very sly and very shrewd, and we never accuse them of not being efficient, but we do accuse them of being sinful, of being criminal. So when you're going to every terminology you're going to use, I'll just say that it seems racist. It seems that they're colonizing. What it is stealing the land, taking the land from a people, totally forbidden according to the Torah. We as Jews are not allowed to steal or kill. We're not allowed to have a state, even if it would have been uninhabited. We would stand in total opposition because God put us into exile. We're forbidden to have a land. Certainly, we're not allowed to create our own state by killing or stealing or oppressing. And as I mentioned earlier, part of exile is to be loyal citizens in every country we reside. On top of that, Jewish people are required to show gratitude for good that has been done to them. In Spain and Portugal, people know we went through the Inquisition, Crusades. We went through many, many suffering, trials and tribulations. When they tried to forcefully convert the Jews to Christianity. What happened was we Jews were banished from the land. They escaped, and they went, and they were embraced by the Muslim and Arab countries from the Ottoman Empire. Many of these lands took us all in, and including in Palestine. We flourished in their lands, and even though we have a distinctly different religion than the Muslims, we believe in one God, but we have a distinctly different religion, and yet we had no problem. Of course, we were able to. The Ottoman Empire, they let us pray by the Western Wall. We had no problems of coexisting. We lived together in total harmony. So, so we have to show gratitude to this. Now, Zionism, in order to create their state, so they have a problem because of the indigenous population, which was the majority Muslim. The second majority was Christian, and then there was the Jewish community. So to establish the state, and they were having people who opposed them, they had to declare to the world that there's an ingrained hate from the Muslims to the Jews. How despicable, how repulsive, repugnant. We cannot accept to hear this. We have to show gratitude and be thankful to the people. And here they're coming, and in order to accomplish their goal, they are vilifying a people that was good to us. And so therefore, that's a third reason. One, we're not allowed to state. One, we're not allowed to kill, steal. One, we have to show gratitude. What they're doing is in every facet, in every shape and form. The Zionist state of Israel is a rebellion against God, against the words of our Torah. And although they desperately try to incorporate and convolute Judaism with Zionism and declare it's the Torah, God gave us the land, and they use emotions. I was suffering by the Holocaust. My grandparents were killed in Auschwitz. Majority of my family died there. My father escaped. But they try to use this fear-mongering that the people, the Arabs are like the Nazis, they want to kill you. They try to use this guilt ride that the world should say, hey, we were silent when Jews were being killed, so therefore we have to assist them in establishing a Jewish state. This is all they using ploys, the Holocaust, other ploys to solidify and accomplish their goal. But we, as religious Jews, declare that it is not Judaism, it is false, and they're falsifying and hijacking, abusing the name of our Torah. It is a rebellion against God. It is criminal. It is unacceptable. I just want to show you. Here's a picture how we used to live together before there was Zionism. Here's a picture how the rabbi, there's more pictures of that. There's pictures of how the rabbis pleaded, this meant in 1920s, the chief rabbi of our communities in Palestine, not to be confused with the Zionist rabbinate. This is from the Eida Harei, the God-fearing community. Met with the king of Transjordan. And in 1920s, 1947, the chief rabbi, after he passed on, the next chief rabbi was Rabbi Dushinsky. Met with the delegation of the United Nations, and he declared, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. Since then, the Jewish community has been demonstrating in thousands, tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands in the streets of Jerusalem, because they have a beautiful, large community that lived in Palestine prior to Zionism, and they were also from the communities who declared we don't want the Jewish state. Not only the Muslim and the Christian, but the Jewish community were opposed to this influx, or this encroaching on the community, on this beautiful Holy Land, the Zionists. We demonstrate in New York, in Washington, tens of thousands. It never gets reported because the media is afraid of being labeled as anti-Semitic. We get brutally beaten, old men, young children. We're never militant. We don't carry guns. We stand on the streets of Jerusalem since the creation of the state and prior to that, and we say it's not Judaism. They're stealing our name. It's not religion. It's a flawed, selfish political movement. Here you see girls being arrested because they refuse to serve in the IDF. Every boy and girl of our communities that turns 17 becomes a criminal because it's mandatory military service. We refuse to serve in the army. Again, they're brutally beaten day and night, and nobody even reports on this because, after all, it's the state of Israel. They certainly aren't anti-Semitic. That's what people would say. And therefore, they have what they're doing to the people. It must be coming to them. You see, they're treading on them. They kill, they assassinate, arrest, and beat the Jewish people who refuse to accept their existence, even though we peacefully demonstrate. Here they're spraying them with stink water that ruins their clothing to discourage demonstrations. And so we just want the world to know that. Here we are. You can see when they made the PLO, we had a representation with the Palestinian people. So this is the sad history of the Jewish opposition. Yet they point to the settlers. They point to their rabbinate, because unfortunately they use idealists and people who go to the universities who are lacking the knowledge of the Torah, and they say, hey, this is Judaism, and they're always able to ensnare and get a following of some religious, usually what they call modern religious. Almost always you'll see the difference between them and us. In other words, modern we call a euphemism for a compromised religion. People who don't know their religion, modern society joins them, and that's why you get confused and you think that the religious people also support it. And they have in the Knesset, they have people there, but the majority of Jews around the world, the vast majority of the very religious, will be anti-Zionist, because it is not possible to join Judaism with Zionism. And we cry and hurt with the people of Palestine. We cry and hurt with the people of Gaza because of this terrible, it's all because of the Zionist state of Israel. We are not condoning violence. The 1,400 people are killed. But why were they killed? We lived together. We lived in peace till Zionism. They tried to tell the world it's not true, but we lived. We have the history that's clear if anybody wants to see it. We lived in peace. Zionism came, and since then there's death. Even not only the Jews who are against the Zionists who get killed by them, but simply because of their existence, the hate that was created every action brings a reaction. So even the 1,400 people that died this last week, we put the blame squarely on the Zionists. Their hands are covered in blood, and they are the essence of anti-Semitism. Zionism, the state of Israel, is anti-Semitism. They exacerbate anti-Semitism around the world. They cause death and suffering of Palestinians day and night. And here we see the shocking bombing of the people of Gaza. Day and night, they're bombing them, murdering.